Hi, everybody. It's Shellie Palmer here. Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here tonight. Thank you for joining me for another night in the web series that I started a week ago. And first off, I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for commenting. I didn't start this for the attention. I started this because I felt like I needed to do this for me. I wanted to do it and, and better connect with readers and the audience and have that connection with everybody, because I find that so important when it comes to meeting someone or to the books that I'm talking about tonight and the start of those books. And I just want to thank you all for those amazing views. I was in shock to see that, and to see that, I mean, and to hear it and get that feedback. It meant so much to me to hear that. And in fact, there was a comment from a friend of mine in Texas, and I was just in tears to hear what she said. And I want to thank you, Deborah, for that. That was just, it meant a lot. It really did. It touched my heart so deeply, so profoundly. And to Michelle in Texas as well. So thank you, ladies, so much for your unwavering love and support in my journey. And I'm glad you're along in my journey, as everybody is this evening. I'm open in group chat, so if you want to talk during this chat, that would be wonderful. So if you are out there and you're just now learning about this web series, it is basically the journey in my publishing career. And it is a self-publishing career. There is no agent. There is no publisher. What you see is what you get. This is all me, stripped, raw, live, online for all of you. When I initially started thinking self-publish, I'm thinking, okay, what's it all entail? And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to be the person in charge of advertising, marketing, promotion, as well as writing of the book. And like I said in the first web video, that I had no previous experience in publishing at all. I had no idea. I was completely green. It just kind of run of the mill. I was getting a lot of feedback from those who had already published on their topic or their style and formatting. So that kind of led me into self-publishing a little bit. A guy, Kawasaki, a lot of people have heard of, he had wrote a book called Ape. And I still haven't had the chance to read it, but I still want to read it, because it is a book that I think all writers should read. So I'm eventually going to read that. That is on my book goal list, basically. I have some other books that are like a goal that I want to read this year. And I think there's like 4 or 5 books that I actually want to read and will read throughout the year. So that is something that I'm constantly learning from, and knowing the story or the plot behind it. I find that very exciting in reading. as opposed to something that I used to not like very much growing up as a kid. It just kind of wasn't me. In fact, I was more into, you know, entertainment and music because that's where my heart and soul used to, it's still there. I have that passion for music as much as I do for writing. And it just kind of fits together for me really well. It's like a balancing act. So self-publishing basically was the start of the journey, and that journey kind of helped me a little more. I'm kind of rambling. I don't know. Maybe that's just me because I'm kind of rambling this evening. I don't know why, but I am. Go figure. Um, but I do credit Guy Kawasaki for that because he kind of opened my eyes into the self-publishing realm, basically. That's how I got to know a little more about it and what it details. You do all the marketing, the advertising, the promotion, everything that is involved in self-publishing. That's what you do. He had mentioned an online uh, website where self-publishers go to create their book. That is Create Space. And I joined Create Space. It was, I think, like late 2012, mid 2012, that kind of that year, and really learned a lot about it. Got myself set up through Create Space and started working on the manuscript for the first book, which is the Poetry Diaries, which I kind of discussed the inspiration behind that book a lot in the very first video. And what came out of it was clearly unexpected. I never thought I wanted to actually, release that work because it is my work, it is my heart, it is my soul, it's how I felt. Um, but like I said, my best friends encouraged it, and I kind of ran with it a little bit and really started thinking more about it. Oh, maybe I could do this. And I did. So, which led up to my friend Michelle in Texas. Said, have you thought about maybe, doing an ebook? And I thought, okay. So I thought, oh man, Create Space ebook, this might work out. So, and Guy Kawasaki, thank you, Guy, as well as Peg Fitzpatrick, who are also on G Plus. Amazing community of people on G Plus. I credit a lot of people on there for, you know, uh, discussions, talking, poetry, inspirational quotes. A lot of that came from leading up to where I am now, but I'm basically talking about the very first book and how I got it published and, the writing behind it. And that's just basically the focus this evening. And where it's led me now is a whole new territory, basically. I'm learning a little more about, manuscript submissions, and uh, getting the books out there to a broader audience, basically. So when I released the Poetry Diaries, it was in March of 2013. Um, the the first cover, which is the original cover, I actually did through Paint Shop. Very rough, very, all me. I kind of did it on a whim. And I thought, okay, this might work for the time being. And then I started playing with various, websites and graphics and um, places where you could go online to create, poster templates and flyers and ads. And I found uh, this wonderful place called Poster My Wall, where business people like me or someone in, music or just want to design for fun. I found that, and it became another outlet. And I decided, well, I'm gonna change up the cover to the original cover. And I came up with a new a cover that is out right now with the book and with the poetry diaries. Basically, I'm adding a lot of new content to that book, and currently working on it while I'm doing other things right now. But what what really came out of releasing this first book was the fact that the people who inspired every little detail or every little poem that I wrote, there's something there that kind of takes me back to when I first started out, and that was the heart of it and the feeling that I was going through at that time when I wrote that particular poem. Um, it is a poetry book. It is not a very thick book, but it is a book. And no matter who you are or what you do in your life, may you find that, you know, little piece of you in that book, because there are pieces, bits and pieces of me in that book. And that kind of led up to the second book, which is Life in Color, taking the journey. And that book kind of solidifies me as who I am. I am Christian. I will attest to that. I am a Christian, and I'll always be that way. You know, I talk about Christ, I talk about Jesus, I talk about God, and I'll talk about Scripture even, which I will get into later on, because I feel that it's important to discuss it. And those who kind of steer away from it are the ones not living it. And so there are a lot of poems in the second book, Life in Color, that kind of represent the people around me. And I had a high school friend who was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And she inspired a piece in the second book titled, I can't even remember the title of it. Uh, Cancer Won't Beat You. That's the title of it now. Come to think of it, Cancer Won't Beat You. She inspired that. I helped her family raise money for her medical expenses and all that she went through with the cancer. She is in remission. She is a survivor. She had a total mastectomy. So God love you, Shelby, for fighting the ultimate fight, which was the cancer. You know, cancer is so much a part of our lives, and I've seen so many of friends or family go through it. And it just really, you know, I think it just always hits close home to me, because my mom is a 2-time breast cancer survivor. Um, you know, I really kind of rally behind that a lot. And and the thing that I remember the most, and I still remember a lot of, is the fact that my dad, you know, I don't necessarily talk about all this, but it's a good way to open up and discuss it, because there are a lot of military families who suffer and live with the effects of PTSD. And my father is one of them. And I thank him a lot for what he does and what he has done for our country. Um, Another organization very close to me, USO. The USO is very much a part of me as well, you know, and being there and being that person on the other end, reciprocating and talking to people who live with PTSD, not just war veterans. it's anybody, because there's, there are so many people in the world who suffer great trauma and end up with PTSD. And how do you live with it? How do you deal with it? And that kind of came up in the second book as well. Uh, so between the first book, The Poetry Diaries, and the second book, Life in Color, taking the journey kind of just throws so much out there. Religion, Christianity, um, you know, um, PTSD, fighting cancer or battling cancer. There are poems that were inspired by country musicians and artists that's just another part of who I am as a person. It really kind of comes down to anyone and everyone who I come in contact with inspires the work that I do. And what really separates the books from other books is that it is poetry, it is testimonies, it is the author's point of view, and where I'm coming from is relatable to other people. And we want to relate to everybody because we all go through the same things, just at different times in our lives. And that kind of puts it out there in perspective, basically. And so when I write longhand. Nothing is ever typed at first. It's all typed, it's all written longhand in a journal book, like I had showed you in the very first video. And that's quite a process. Sometimes it takes me months to put a book together, or it will take, a year. It all depends on the material I have written, or or the time of day that I write it. A lot of my writing comes in the evenings, when I'm about to settle in for the night. I have all these thoughts and, going on through my mind, and the things that I went through that day. Um, it kind of sits there. It sits on my mind, or it sits on my heart. Um, that and it just comes out. I think that's the best time for me to write is in the evening, when I'm about to, settle down, even though my mind continually races with thoughts, because it does. I do have nights where I just lay there and I just can't, really relax. My mind's constantly going. So I have to write something, otherwise I won't get to sleep. Um, every writer has their own style, their own formatting. Um, my formatting is a little different from an actual writer or a published author. Like I say, I write it all in journal books or a notebook, and then after that is through that, as I go through that process, then I go to the typing process, which goes a little quicker than the longhand. And any author will tell you that when it comes to writing it, you want to be precise. You want to get your story across, or that particular part in the book. You want it to flow. You want to have that fluidity when you're writing, because if you don't, then it's not going to sound like anything, nothing at all. And it's important that you can grasp your audience and be that relatable person that everybody is used to. I'm very candid in who I am as a person. So if I come off saying something that I didn't mean, I will flat out apologize about it. That's just the kind of person I am. Or if there's something that I get upset over, I will say it. I can be very mouthy at times, very opinionated. I'm a lot like my father. I am my father's daughter, basically. Uh, there are things that, you know, will trigger me just in that right spot, and I'll just, you know, be very blunt. And I try not to be, because, you know, in this day and age, we have to be careful what we say. Sometimes it's okay to go outside your boundaries a little bit, but self-publishing the poetry diaries was just something that I will never forget. You know, it's my first book. It was my very first book, and I was really happy with the results of it. But in some sense, I felt like I rushed it a little too much. Now that I'm going back and revamping it up a little bit, I'm taking the time with it. And I think that's important, that you take your time and your patience with your work, because your work reflects who you are as a person, and you want it to come across to your audience and your readers. It's very, very important like that. And I will tell people that too. If you're an aspiring writer or aspiring author, take the time to write your material. Make sure that what you write is your heart and your soul, because it's reflecting you, and it's reflecting on your audience when they read that book. And I've become more aware of that in the writing process. I do blogging on the side. When it comes to writing, I find that also very important. A lot of already published authors will tell you blogging is very important. You want to start blogging like 2 and 3 months, you know, like some crazy, you know, path that you have to do or take. And I'm like, you know what? Throw that out the window. As soon as you know that you're going to write a book, that's when you want to start blogging. Don't start blogging 2 and 3 months ahead of time. It's not always necessary, especially if you already know what you're writing about. I'm not saying it's for everybody. It is for some people, and that's just for me. I started blogging about 4 months in, after of the release of the first book, the Poetry Diaries. And I was happy because I was reaching a little bigger audience than what I'm used to, and which is fine, you know, but blog when you feel like you need to blog. Don't do it because someone's telling you to. That is a lot of pressure. I don't believe in that. I put enough pressure on myself sometimes, and we don't, you know, just go at the pace that you are meant to go at, and just go with it. Because if you put the added pressure on yourself, then you're not going to do it. You want to do it when you feel like you need to do it or want to do it. So blogging is important. It helps you creatively think more. And you can blog about anything. There's so many topics that you can blog about. The last blog I wrote was about prayer, and that I believe in the power of prayer, and that I find very important. I really do. And that will be discussed in the next video next week on the 5th of February. I can't believe it. We're going into February already. It's just, wow, what a year already. It's going so quick. But that is some of the reasons of writing the Poetry Diaries, the material in it, the inspiration behind it. There's so many things that we as human beings can do. Your potential is limitless. You know, if you have a story in you, share it with someone. You know, it could be a family friend, it could be a family member, it could be a close friend, it can be anybody. And if they like it enough, they'll support you. And I've had some wonderful support from so many of you already. And I find that just amazing. Thank you so much. And I do, like I say it all the time. I say thank you. And I truly, humbly mean it, because this is what I love to do. And like I said, I'm meant to do this, and I'm meant to be in this process with you on this journey. It's just not only my journey, it's your journey. We have so much to look forward to in this world. There's so much going on as well. We have to remember to take time for ourselves as well. Um, Something else to discuss is the fact that books are books. Some are bestsellers, some aren't. And like I said, I'm not out there to become a bestseller. If I do, that's all because of you, because you love reading the books. And I'm not going to force people to go out and buy my books or anything. But if you want to purchase these books, you can purchase them online through Create Space or Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble online. You can even get it on Google online. So there are different ways, different places where you can get all four of these books in this series right now. The next time that I come back and talk with you, I will most likely start talking a little more about world events, but I also want to discuss more about publishing and what it takes for a self-publisher, because so many self-publishers get themselves in this crazy frenzy, like they have to do everything and make sure it's like perfect, which I contest to. I am a bit of a perfectionist, like I said, and I want to make sure that my material, like I said, reflects me to the point where it relates with you on that level. So just a little more. I'm running a little under this evening because I'm throwing everything in there within like the first 30 minutes of self-publishing, writing the material, what inspired it. I've been in the position where I'm getting a little more feedback from the very first book, and which is really, like I said, has really surprised me at this point, because it is my heart and soul. It is who I am and what I'm about, and just being the person that I am, like I say. And I will be blunt. I will be honest. I will not sugarcoat a thing when it comes to talking about this. Um, Everything that you could think of are in these books. There's a lot of there can be self-doubt. You don't feel like you're worthy enough. Love. Love is represented to so many of you so differently. Um, the people that you treasure in your life, um, you know, the people in your life that shouldn't be in your life but are, and how do you deal with that? Yeah, there's fear and there's content and there's peace. And I mean, when it comes to writing, that's what I'm going to write about. I've even told people, if you say something and if it strikes a chord in me, I'm going to write about it. You just never know. You never know who I'm going to end up writing about. Something that I find refreshing is going outside of my box. I'm an out of the box thinker. I'm very visual in how I present myself as well. I am very much the kind of person who will basically do whatever. I'm very multitasking. Um, I've had some people tell me how multi-talented I am. I don't see myself as a super talented person, but there are things that I like and I gravitate towards a lot. And, I'm going to experiment in it. I'm very experimental. I like to experiment. And that's just another little piece of who I am. Uh, I mean, I could really go on and on about the people who I've met in my life. At this point, I've been through some issues and situations with people who have not been, let me say, nice or pleasant. Uh, there are a lot of people who just want to see you fail. And I've had my fair share of people who have wanted to see me fail. And coming from someone who has a, a learning disability, that's sometimes hard to deal with, because someone will say, "Oh, she's quote unquote dependent on someone else to do the work for her." That's not the case with me. I'm very independent. I will do things on my own. If I do need help, I know who to go to, or if I'm in a situation that I can't get myself out of. Um, and I'm pretty good at being just me. That's just who I am. And there's a lot of growth there and a lot of room to breathe in this world as a writer, as a published author. I've had people comment on that and actually congratulate me, which is wonderful. And the support from you, from my friends, from my listeners and my viewers, I appreciate it so much. And it's just, you know, a wild ride at this point, and I'm learning so much more. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on YouTube, like I right here, and Twitter as well, and G Plus, and all these little websites, uh, social networking hubs. Tumblr, my official website's on Tumblr. So I am Shellie Palmer, or I am the real Shellie Palmer. I think that's how it is. Sometimes I forget. So there are several ways that you can stay in contact with me. And I can't wait till next week, because next week I talk about what is important in the world, and to embrace what we are as human beings. There are a lot of human beings in the world who can be very cold and calculating, and tap into that a little bit as well. So, like I said, it's a shorter video this evening. If you have comments, if you have questions, I will take any comment or question from you folks. I really want to thank you for always tuning in, and hope that this video helps you if you're an aspiring writer and want to publish your material. Like I said, I'm always open to suggestions and ideas as well, so don't be afraid to ask. I have a way of giving the best advice that I possibly can to anybody, and just live your dream. I'm living my dream right now, and it's, like I said, it's an amazing ride, and I can't wait to see what's next. I will see you all next week. Have a wonderful evening.